I saw that. That's not fair. So you guys, after they got off stage, they got them like crates of In-N-Out, and I'm like, how are they gonna want to come back out? And you have fresh In-N-Out back there. Listen, the fact that they're here today, considering that we have to literally get them to the Greek in a little while, is pretty awesome. Hi, guys.
Hi.
It's always refreshing to sit up here with people that I consider friends. Dan and Kyle did something very cool for me this year. I walked into the studio at work and there was a camera and I was like, what the fuck is this? And they were like, we're gonna film something later with Stryker or whatever. And I was like, cool. Wasn't looking my best. And then the door opens and in comes Dan and Kyle. And do you know what I did? I started crying like a baby, like a little bitch. I started crying.
Well, we weren't sure how you were going to react and sort of kind of nervous. You'd be like, what are you doing here?
Wouldn't
so
have
that was the ultimate.
What if I was like, what are they doing here?
Yeah.
The worst thing would have been like, who are they?
Who are they?
Could you remove those people,
again?
please? Yeah.
I tweet this all the time. I always tweet to the entire band, I love you so much, because I want it to go to the entire band. But unfortunately, the Twitter handle is @BastilleDan. It's not @BastilleBand, it's @BastilleDan, but I want you to know that I love all of you.
You can tweet us too, mate, if you want.
All of you.
That's nice to know. And
I'm not a crazy stalker. I want to talk about my favorite record of this year called Doom Days. It is, and I'm not just saying this because I'm sitting here looking at your faces, it is my favorite record, and 3 years ago, Wild World was my favorite, and before that, Bad Blood, and I tell my friends if I were a songwriter, I'd want to write these songs.
Oh, wow, thank you.
The thing about this album is, if you listen to it, it paints this picture of our society right now. We're obsessed with our phones. The world is killing itself. But you make it sound so fun. How do you do that?
I don't know. That's a really good point.
You make it sound like, let's party. Let's run some red lights. Let's like wake up on the floor next to a person whose name I don't know. Let's go outside and breathe some air and maybe get drunker.
Or go breathe some air and get smokier. I don't know.
Get smokier.
I guess that's just the duality of life, isn't it? Like with our phones, it's not as easy as saying like, oh, it's terrible, we're all addicted to them. They're also amazing. They have all the information in the whole world, and like they connect you with people.
Yeah.
So I guess we wanted the album to feel bleak and hopeful at the same time. I think that kind of sums up all of our music.
You captured it. Well, it's kind of like life. You wake up every day and you go on the news and you're like, wow, this sucks. But then you have a choice whether you wallow in that and you're like, let's go to a Bastille show and fucking live it up. So it's the choices that you make. When you say we wanted it, how did you all begin to get on the same page for the vibe of this record? Who was the first person that said, ooh, I want to write about this, or I have a lyric, and then how do you start to become a team after that?
I mean, so Dan's the writer in the band, obviously, but I don't know, we kind of just discussed amongst ourselves a little bit in terms of...
Did you write Nocturnal Creatures first?
Yeah.
And then that kind of... that kind of started the path.
Yeah, because we'd sort of discussed wanting the album to feel like a kind of throwback, almost like party album, but a very British sounding one. So a lot of some of the beats and things like Nocturnal Creatures and Million Pieces are quite kind of British and look back to the sort of 90s. And
D&B and that sort of
yeah,
thing.
so we...
Well, wait, really quick, if I may. How do we identify British sounding? How would we identify that? No, that's not supposed to be funny. That's an educated question. Like, I'm a Cuban American. How do I identify British? I want to know.
I guess like there are some beats that I could be completely wrong, but like the break beat, for example, there's a thing that I've heard like radio people discuss that like that beat doesn't work in America and it never has.
Like drum and bass.
Okay.
Like the kind of drum, like the sort of like drum and bass. Obviously, there was a form of dubstep that then became what was like pop dubstep that was really different. But like there's a few sort of like underground like dance scenes in the UK. Well, not necessarily underground. Like the Prodigy, for example, who I'm sure were very big.
Yeah, Prodigy was huge here.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So maybe
to 4 people apparently.
yeah.
Prodigy.
I guess we wanted to sort of lean into the sort of euphoria of kind of dance music as a band, but without looking to the sort of modern era, like to EDM and those tempos and those kind of sounds. Which is interesting, seeing as we had a song at the same time with obviously Marshmello, who epitomizes that. So that was sort of like, well, we've stepped into that world for a second, and so we wanted, I don't know, I guess the beats to feel like slightly crusty and like almost like old samples. So with Nocturnal Creatures, as Kyle was saying, it was the first one we did, and we wanted it to have this sort of like break beat drop when it came in that I don't know, calling it a drop makes it sound like an EDM song. It's not, it's like a band song. So Woody came into the studio and did like a whole load of drum, like loads of different beats, and we sort of sampled them and chopped them around, and I guess tried to do what a band would do with that kind of music.
There's a really famous break from an old 60s tune, I forget who did it, but it's called Amen Brother, where basically like, old DJs, hip-hop and everything, drum and bass, they'll go back and find just drum breaks on old records and then sample and loop them and chop them up. So we recreated this really famous drum break called From Amen Brother. But then also, if you want to understand like the whole British sort of sounding thing, like watching films like Human Traffic or Trainspotting would probably put you in the right sort of.
Oh, what a movie!
Yeah,
dark,
what a damn movie. I call Doomday's End of the World romantic. There's like a dark romance to it, which I love. This is out of curiosity. Is there a hopeless romantic in the band? Woody, is it you staring? I mean, no, is it you or is it Will that's been staring into space for the last 5 minutes?
Just right sonnets.
Dreaming of In-N-Out burgers.
I'm an absolute romantic. I'm so romantic. The story of when I proposed to my fiancée.
Tell me, please.
I forgot to say, "Will you marry me?" And I just gave some long-ass spiel about wanting to spend my life with you.
Was it kind of implied?
I gave her the ring, and she's quite dim, and was like, I don't know, because that's just like the ring.
She's also here, by the way.
He just want that. He didn't, honey. He didn't mean that.
Nice that you called her dim while she's in the room.
Well, but then I gave her the ring that she's always wanted, and she's like, "Oh, that looks like the one I wanted for like the engagement." And I was like, "Ooh." And then she told me to put it away.
She might be taking that ring off as we speak, by the way. It's in the freaking toilet.
Then she told me to put it away and do it later when there was no one around. And that was the proposal. So that's as romantic as it gets in the Farquharson household.
I like her so much. Who's the opposite of that in the band? Who's like maybe either the player? Is it either the player or the one that's like just cold and dead inside, maybe?
I am married with 2 kids. I am not a player.
Dan, do you have? This is not me hitting on you.
Cold and dead inside.
You're cold and dead inside? Yeah. Me too. Match made in heaven. All right, so somebody the other day, I think on a DM or something, sent me a meme that said, at the end of this year, we're actually saying goodbye to an entire decade, which I hadn't thought about.
It's crazy.
It's insane. Let's just talk about this year. You guys have done, I've lived vicariously through you. Kyle, the Friends pop-up store in New York.
I've got the hat backstage.
I know. I've never seen a happier you in my entire life.
It was.
You guys, it was. Does anybody watch Friends? He did the whole
funny.
lifting of the couch and the pivot.
It's not funny.
It was amazing. But I think especially for British people, it was such. I don't know. It was bigger because it was American. Like, because here you guys are like, yeah, that's just like.
But also Friends is the most streamed show in the UK. Like in 2019.
That's impressive. Can't blame it, really.
You know your pop culture. You always have. You're so good at that. And then, really quickly, they hung out with Rick Astley. Not only that, but Rick Astley asked them for a ride back to his hotel. And they said, what did you say?
It was the best ride of his life.
Sure, Rick Astley. And then the other thing that you did was mental. Can you please explain why you thought it was a good idea to get on a roller coaster that drops you I don't know how many fucking feet and think that maybe your voice might hold up there? Because it did, surprisingly.
There's a concert series that they do in a theme park in Sweden, and
those Swedes are crazy.
But the lineup, like anyone you can think of in like ever band wise, from like Rolling Stones
Hendrix.
to Madonna to Hendrix, like everybody's played there. They do this summer series thing, and so we were doing it, and you're in a theme park, and I quite like a ride.
Yeah.
And in the song of ours called Floors, I generally sort of go for a bit of a wander in the crowd, but there was this massive drop ride literally next to the stage. So Chris, our production manager, just made sure that I was able to try it. And it was I started the song on stage, went off, got on the ride with Mids, who was filming it, and it went up, but we'd not planned it, we'd not tried it out.
Were you terrified?
I was absolutely terrified.
I was terrified for you.
And then, and also I was like, because you're standing there, you're like, I've never done this before. I'm in the middle of singing a song,
and the crowd's singing with him, so he can't let the crowd down, you know.
But I was like, I just don't know what my body's gonna do. Like, am I gonna drop the microphone? Am I gonna scream?
Pee in my pants,
am I just gonna
maybe?
like shit myself or throw up? Like anything could have happened. But it happened to it dropped at the perfect point in the song. Like it looked so staged.
What a rush.
But then got back down, went out, jumped in the crowd for a bit, and then got up on stage and finished the song. So that all kind of happened in the space of 3.5 minutes, which was probably one of the weirdest 3.5 minutes of my life. But I think all of us who work with us get quite a lot of.
Do you guys want to go skydiving with me one day?
Yeah.
Absolutely never.
No, I'm not. And did you say no?
Never.
You're lost.
No.
I've talked to you about this. Like,
Will as well.
The next time that you're here and you have downtime, as you all are my witnesses, I want to do 2 things with Bastille. I want to watch a film with you, and you need to go see Joker, and I want to go skydiving with them. The people that have seen Joker, would you say if it's dark, raise your hand? And they say nothing, so they're still traumatized. We need to get them to the Greek, but I wanted to say, as we are ending this decade and you've released 3 amazing albums, and by the way, a song with Lizzo before anybody knew who Lizzo was. If you were to write a love letter to the decade, what would the first sentence say?
Wow.
Wow, there goes the Nicole.
Yeah. We should ask this that an hour ago so we could think about it.
How about think about it and maybe tweet it out for me or something?
Okay.
I want to say...
I feel the decade was almost semi-broken in half by changes that happened in 2016, so...
Wow, you have to go get technical on me?
It started well.
Well...
I took a nosedive.
When we say goodbye to let me rephrase. When we say goodbye to 2019...
I feel like we started in one era and we've ended it in a completely different one.
It's been cool to watch you grow through all of it. It really has.
I meant as the world,
Oh,
not
the
us.
world, yeah.
But us as well.
I'm so smitten. I want to... Before we get off the stage, I'm going to make them give me a group hug. But the last thing I want to say to Bastille is... If humanity were to set the world on fire, I would happily dance around the flames with you.
Oh, thanks.
Happily.
We would happily dance around the flames with you as well.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, HD Radio. Thank you, Bastille!
Thanks so much for coming.
Cheers.
I want a group hug. Hold on. Somebody take a picture of this. Ready? When I say 3, just come at me. 1, 2, 3, go. Yeah!